Hello there, and welcome to another of Andre's Artist Profiles. And today, John McVie of this group you see right here, Fleetwood Mac, is going to be turning 68. But this isn't really about his birthday. Uh, this is a band that suffered various ailments over the years, some substance abuse, some health, some both. Unfortunately, John McVie probably, if I understand it, after years of dealing with a massive drinking problem, has developed cancer and is currently undergoing treatment. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just wanted to, get people to remember the group that he was, of course, most associated with, Fleetwood Mac. Now, as you all know, Fleetwood Mac started in the late 60s under the leadership of Peter Green. I used to actually have the big Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green box set, which contained all their material. And I don't have that anymore. That's a long story, really too long to go into that video. Suffice it to say, it was taken by somebody, but it wasn't stolen. I'll go into that another time. Don't trust your music with people who you don't think are fully trustworthy. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, this is what I have for Fleetwood Mac now. It's a pretty big collection covering a pretty wide range of lineups, but that was what Fleetwood Mac were really all about. They were like the Temptations of the rock scene, They just had a continually changing lineup, but there was a certain core all through it, and I'll explain that as I go along. This is the earliest Fleetwood Mac album I have now, called Kiln House. And it was during a lineup with a man named Danny Kerwin. Mick Fleetwood and John McVie are really the only familiar members from the original lineup on this album from 1970. The next album is called Future Games, and this is a very special album because it was the first to feature Christine McVie, who would later go on to be part of one of the many important Fleetwood Mac lineups in the future. Notice that penguin there? That will be significant a little bit later in the group's development. This is an album called Bare Trees. A lot of people recommended this album as one of the best of, the earlier Fleetwood Mac. So this album came out in 1972. Okay. The next album is called Mystery to Me. A lot of people think this is a silly cover, but I actually like it. And it's a great album. 1973 on Reprise Records. The next album, remember that penguin? Here we are again with penguins on an album called, of course, Penguin. This came out in 1973 again. I believe by this time Danny Kerwin had left the lineup. Their next album was Heroes Are Hard to Find, which came out in 1974. This album has been referred to as something of a black sheep, as it were, in the Fleetwood Mac catalog because I don't think it was as successful as even some of their earlier albums were. But then, of course, the next year, this came along. And this was the year that Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks joined the band. And this is, I'm sure a lot of people very much not in the know actually believe this is the very first Fleetwood Mac album. It's not by a long shot. It's just the beginning of a big, commercially successful era lineup for them. And of course, if you look on the back, you can see immediately why this album became so successful. Of course, Rhiannon was the big breakout hit from that. Their next album, somewhat surprisingly for a group like Fleetwood Mac, who had had modest to very good pop success, this album actually joined the ranks of Thriller as being one of the biggest seller of all time in 1977. Rumors, and I mean Dreams, Don't Stop. Just look in the back of this album again. Go Your Own Way. I mean, this album was nothing but a big, huge hit parade. And a very good one at that, I should add. The next album was called Fleetwood Mac. It came out in 1979. This album was a bit of a non sequitur. I believe Lindsey Buckingham managed to get the Marine horns to play on the record, and therefore it was an enormous success, but it was very uncommercial compared to Rumors. But I always rather like this album. This is the original double disc edition. The first edition of this CD fit it all in one by editing a song called Sarah. So anyway, the next album actually came out in 1982 called Mirage. This came out in 82, but this is very, very, very locked into their 70s sound. I think Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were battling a lot of drug issues, and they had solo careers they were nursing. So Fleetwood Mac were not a huge priority during this period, but it still did okay. This is actually the first Fleetwood Mac album I remember hearing, and I didn't even know it was them because they were playing songs like I Want to Be With You Everywhere on the radio and Little Lies. This was when they really, came right into the 80s sound on Tango in the Night. And my favorite song on this is actually Big Love, a Lindsey Buckingham song. This is sort of Rumors 10 years on, kind of a hit parade album. It didn't, of course, come to the sales figures of that, but it did pretty well for them. So that is my Fleetwood Mac collection right there. And, oh boy, I knew that might happen. Sorry about that. But anyway, this collection is not complete because I don't have the Peter Green box set anymore, but that's what I have for Fleetwood Mac right now. And my best to John McVie and his family for a successful and hopefully speedy recovery. See you next time.